This is a very interesting development. The new bosses at CNN clearly walk in and are like, what kind of shit show did we just purchase over here? Let's put this up there on the screen. Their new boss actually taking aim at something that drives me crazy in cable news, which is that the new boss says that CNN needs to abide by a new breaking news standard and says that they are overusing the breaking news banner across its network and cable news writ large. He says, quote, "We are truth tellers focused on informing, not alarming our viewers. You have already seen far less of the breaking news banner across our programming." He says he agrees with complaints from both inside and outside the organization that the network uses the breaking news banner. It has become a fixture on every channel and the network, and that its impact has become lost on the audience. We always joke about this. Whenever you're watching Fox News, they're like, they have the music and like, and they're like, it's a Fox News alert. It's 11 p.m. here on the East Coast. You're like, why is it a Fox News alert? Why? Same with it's like breaking news. President Biden about to speak. Why is that breaking? Well, what does that mean?
Or it'll be breaking news, something that happened like 3 days ago.
Right. We have breaking news here.
4 days ago. What are you talking about?
Further breaking coverage of the ongoing. Well, hold on a second, because breaking and ongoing don't have the same connotation. It has become something that is intrinsic to cable news. Roger Ailes' fault, actually, in terms of making sure that this all happened in the first place.
Zucker did not pioneer this.
Zucker did not pioneer this, but he stuck to it. A lot of people did, and CNN now the first people to kind of step back. And, the New York Times wrote it up in an interesting way, which is that the new bosses over at CNN are very, very aware of the problems that they have. Let's put this up there on the screen, which is that this new guy, Chris Licht, and the Discovery CEO are trying to undo many of the damages that Jeff Zucker put in, beyond just the breaking news issues. They're pointing to the fact that they had to deal with the Chris Cuomo cover-up. They had to deal, obviously, with Zucker and his mistress and all that cover-up. They had to deal with the CNN Plus disaster and just shut it down completely in some of the first days of actually owning this thing. But more important, they had to shut down, the snarky headlines, like the immediate fact checks in the print. They're like, that stuff is over. They're like, we're done in terms of that. And then I somehow had a personal experience because I watched, I said in this, what they said is political shows are trying to book more conservative voices, and producers have been urged to ignore Twitter backlash from the far right and the far left. And this made a lot of sense because on Sunday, I'm minding my own business, and I get a text message from some producer over at CNN asking, would you be able to join our panel in New York City at 9 p.m.? And I was like, no. I was like, I don't do cable news unless there's a really good reason, given exactly what we do here. So you want me to waste my time and skip my own show to go up to New York to appear on your stupid ass panel.
Random CNN panel.
Yeah, random CNN panel with CNN's greatest analysts that they can pay over there for like a 5-minute hit where, and we were talking about this, where clearly a hit, by the way, is what lingo for appearance in television, for me to appear on your panel where they'll be like, you're a racist and a scumbag. Do you have a response? And I'll be like, well, do I have, some time? And they're like, no, we have to go to commercial. That's your response.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, Sagar. Really appreciate you taking the train to New York and all of this in order to make that happen. So as much as I personally would love to go on there and really tell them how it is, if I ever get the opportunity to do something like Brian Stelter's show or something like that, as one-on-one, I would absolutely do that just to call him out to his face. But something like this, it's like they're clearly just scrambling to try and get somebody on there. So the TLDR is I said no, obviously, so I could be here with you beautiful people here on this show. And look, I don't think it's going to work, and they really have their work cut out for them.
I can understand though why they reached out to you because, you are kind of like a unicorn in that you have these right of center views on certain issues, but you haven't just completely lost your mind and, gone down some conspiracy rabbit hole. So I can understand why they would want, plus they just see our numbers and they're like, we want some of that.
Yeah, we want some of that.
Yeah. So I get why they reached out to you. I'll tell you, spoiler alert, this is what's going to happen with CNN. Because this is exactly what happened with MSNBC when I was there and when I got canceled ultimately. They brought in a new president. He looked around. Some of this has to do with what they think is going to work from a revenue perspective. Some of it has to do with what they think will make them comfortable in their social circles.
Oh, that's smart. Yeah.
And so new NBC News president comes in. He says, all this opinion stuff has to go. We're going to put in the NBC News quote unquote personalities. You might call them lack of personalities. And we're going to lean into our journalism, and we're going to be down the middle, and that's what we're going to do. So he puts in people like Kate Snow, gives Chuck Todd his Daily Show, like all this stuff. Brilliant, amazing moves. So they go in this direction, and then what happens? Trump happens, and guess which shows performed the best? The ones that were willing to be the most opinionated and the most sort of deranged and outrageous. Those were the ones that got the best ratings. And so, they were even thinking of getting rid of Lawrence O'Donnell, who's the 10 p.m. primetime slot, but they couldn't because his ratings were some of the best on the network. So ultimately, they, that whole plan of we're going to be down the middle, we're going to use our journalists, et cetera, gets tossed out the window because ultimately what's sold in the Trump era was Trump derangement. And so they leaned into, right. whoever had that, whoever was doing that thing and satisfying the audience's desire for that. And it's going to be the same thing with CNN because ultimately, look, their ratings are terrible right now. So right now it's easy for them to say, we're going to go back to this down the middle reporting, and they're imagining, that'll open us up to a broader audience and we won't just have this niche. But there is no mass broad audience for news anymore. And you don't have, because of structural reasons in cable news, the ability to actually do something that would be good and honest and that people would like and that is different and challenges corporate power in any way. They can't do that. And so what's gonna happen is we're gonna get back into the presidential election season, which is gonna happen sooner than any of you all think it is going to. Trump's gonna be back in the scene. That's what's gonna break, and they're gonna go right back to where they were. That's what's gonna happen.
You're absolutely correct. The moment that Trump announces, by the way, there's actually some rumors that he might announce before the midterms.
Yeah.
He might announce before the midterms in order to preempt any efforts to try and replace him, in order to take a complete hold on the GOP field. It's gonna be all Trump all the time. They're gonna go right back to what rates with their crazy resistance boomer audience. Just because those people turned out, they can't resist Trump. Something about Trump has rotted these people's brains where they will watch anything about how he's bad or whatever the next drama is with him, and we will all be subjected to the same insanity that we were over the last 4 years. I don't know if we can do it again, but we'll be here on Breaking Points.
Indeed. Cable news is ripping us apart, dividing the country, making it impossible to function as a society, and making it impossible to know just what is true and what is false. But the good news is they are failing and they know it.
That is why we're building something new, a new mainstream, a healthier one, something more trustworthy, something that we are going to need in one of the most pivotal times in American history. We are building up here for the midterms, for the upcoming presidential election, but we need your help. So if you can help us out by becoming a premium member today at breakingpoints.com, we're trying to change America for the better and the entire world.
So what are you waiting for, guys? Go to breakingpoints.com and sign up and help us build a new mainstream.